Well, we get asked this question a lot, or I
Oh, yes.
see it in all of the Facebook groups of I'm not happy with my provider, or I like my provider, but something seems like it's missing. Like what should I have? And I'm always the question of, well, who's on your birth team?
Yeah.
And
I
that
think one of the most important questions is who do you actually want on your birth team,
and that
right?
is something that people don't realize. Like, what do you mean a team?
Yep.
Well, bringing a baby into the world like requires a team. I mean, if we are wanting the best experience, the best possible outcome, why wouldn't we want to be prepped with all of these people surrounding us with the one goal in mind?
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Prime Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Skip Wyss. And as always, I have the beautiful, wonderfully radiant Dr. Julie Wyss with me today. My beautiful, wonderful wife. Hi, Dr. Julie.
Sometimes I think we have to say wife because I think people don't realize that
They don't
we do go
realize
home
we're
together.
married.
Yes.
Yeah, we are married. We've been together for almost 20 years, over 20 years.
That's a long time.
It's a great time. It's 2 decades. 2 decades of your life you've been with me.
Oh, man.
And it's been a while. So, and we've got 2 beautiful children. We've got our beautiful babies. We've got a 16-year-old, soon to be 17-year-old, and we have a soon to be 14-year-old. It's been a lot. But we are in the new year of 2025, Dr. Julie. And I want to spend time today talking about kicking the new year off with getting ready for birth.
Well, we get asked this question a lot, or I
Oh, yes.
see it in all of the Facebook groups of I'm not happy with my provider, or I like my provider, but something seems like it's missing. Like what should I have? And I'm always the question of, well, who's on your birth team?
Yeah.
And
Right.
that is something that people don't realize. Like, what do you mean a team? Well, bringing a baby into the world like requires a team. I mean, you look at football. There's how many different team, captains or coaches for the different parts that go on in football. Like I know all those positions. And that's football. And here we are talking about bringing a life into the world, and we just think that it's a solo job, that we can do it on our own. But if we are wanting the best experience, the best possible outcome, why wouldn't we want to be prepped with all of these people surrounding us with the one goal in mind?
Yeah, it's about a community, right? It's about you, me, and the people around us for that birth team. And one of the most common things that we get is right away is, how do we set up a birth plan? I think we should roll into 2025 talking exactly about this. You see this all over in the forums. Every mom wants a better, different birth than their last, especially if they went most first-time births, about 90% of them don't go as planned or expected. The second ones do because there's more planning per se, as long as there's not emergencies. But the first one never goes as planned. It rarely does it.
Well,
but
and
it comes down to the team.
It comes down to the team, but sometimes it's like you don't know what you don't know. And
Yep.
unless you kind of put together this plan, you haven't thought through all of the things. And again,
Yes.
to go into this adventure not knowing like the positives of everything, or okay, if it doesn't go as planned, it's not a negative. It's okay, these are my options. This is what I want to get to choose from.
So let's start right away with the top part of the birth plan. So if we're going to roll into birth plans and actually getting one rolled out, I think one of the most important questions is, who do you actually want on your birth team? Do you want an obstetrician, gynecologist that's a board certified trained surgeon? Do you want a midwife? Do you want a doula? And let's just go down that route right away. So OB-GYNs, those are obstetrician gynecologists. They specialize in surgery. It's what they do.
Well, that's not a negative. That's the training that they've done. But I think we just need to step back and realize that when we are choosing to have a birth with that person, they want to excel. Like, they love what they get to do. And that is surgery.
Yep.
So they just want to be helpful with their God-given talents that they've been given.
Yeah.
And by you being there, that allows that opportunity for them to excel at what they do. So again, it's not a negative.
No.
But you have to understand when those providers are a part of your birth team, the likelihood of, if you're looking for unassisted, a hands-off, and you have somebody else showing up as a part of your birth team, there already is a disconnect of, and I don't like the language of, well, they say that I can do it. That's not typically how that works.
Or we will let you. And what you'll find is that a lot of surgeons, regardless, they're used to being in control because they're controlling the surgery and they're trying to control the outcome. So the trust barrier is not there. And we've went through round and round with this with different surgeons in the community, that they trust themselves over everybody else in the room. So that's what you're setting yourself up for. The next person you want to keep in mind, though, is, do you want to actually have a midwife? One of the best people to help you birth a baby is a midwife, because it's what they do. They birth babies.
But I think, again, like the caveat is understanding that not all midwives, just like OBs, not all midwives are
the same.
Yep. And you really have to ask, just like any provider, of ask, well, how many births have they been at? How many have they attended? What is it? How does the birth usually go? You know, does it end up in a transfer? Is it a hands off? Is it more medical? Even though you have a midwife, it could be a more medicalized midwife that's just placed in that position based upon the facility, if you're at a facility of where you're deciding to want to deliver.
Yeah, if you're at a hospital here in Green Bay, there's multiple hospitals that have midwives on staff. Are those midwives the same as the midwives that are doing birth center births and home births? And that's for something for you as the mom to figure out, what scenario and setting do you want to be in? What makes you feel the most comfortable? That's the key, is, do you feel comfortable? Are you heard? Do you trust them? Do you feel like they have your best interest in mind and baby in mind? And that's not for you and I to decide. That's for you as the mom and the dad to decide how you want your baby to come into the world. Now, other person that's amazing at helping during birth is a doula. And we know fabulous doulas up here in Green Bay. They're an amazing part of the birth team. Their job is to make the partner look like a rock star.
An all-star. Yeah. And again, this is if you're choosing not to do a birth plan, or you're like, I just want to wing it, I think really consulting and having a doula as your, just like your wingman, your wingwoman, your guardian angel. It just helps whenever there's a stressor or things maybe aren't going as planned. You want to be able to look at your significant other, if they're there with you, or whomever that is, and look to them for guidance. But if that person doesn't have it, that's where like the communication can break down, and then stress and tense. And we know as soon as there's stress, like that's going to shut down birth canal. Everything's going to come to a halt. And so a doula is that person that's there just to help to navigate and be that sounding board to give you kind of, okay, here's the options. Then you still get to choose. You still have that power. You're empowered by having that additional person there to help you, just again, to have the best things that you want. There's no right or wrong, but if we don't ask the questions and have the support, that's where things can just kind of trail out of your ideal birth plan of what you were looking for.
Well, I feel a doula has the most resources.
Yeah.
They're going to know the best birth providers, like you had said. They're going to know the best midwives. They're also going to know the websites to go to help you write a birth plan, or maybe get you the templates you want to put together for it. They are a wealth of amazing birth knowledge. And there's male doulas and there's female doulas. There's vast majority more female doulas than male doulas, but they also do postpartum care as well. So a lot of your doulas will come into your home, get to know you, know who you are, know who your spouse is or partner, and then post-birth still come back into your home, visit, make sure that you are acclimating to baby well, and baby's acclimating to you, and they can be there to help you check latch, things like this, to help make sure post-birth life is still going amazingly well. That's such a key. Check-in. Now that we've talked a little bit about providers, Julie, I want to go into actually talking about the birth plan itself with labor and delivery. I think one of the biggest things that moms need to understand is that they have to ask the right questions when they go into a hospital. And some of the biggest questions are, can you birth in a water? Can you birth in a tub? Are you allowed to labor in a tub? Can you be on all fours? What are the birth positions you're allowed to birth in? Are you going to put me on my back? Do you require constant fetal monitoring, both internal and or external? External is most common. They'll do internal if they feel there's a problem with baby. Am I allowed to walk around? Will I be allowed to have access to anti-pain medication? These are all things that I think moms need to really consider. Are you allowed to have the spouse in the room? Are you allowed to have a doula in the room? And then if you are, do you or don't you want those things? Mm-hmm. You are in full control up until you get there.
Well, that's I usually kind of say, and this is where like you need to hold on to your power. Like think of it as you're going away to a really expensive hotel room, right? And you don't want just
not a very
anybody
luxurious one.
I didn't say luxurious.
No.
I said expensive. A great investment. So this is assuming if you're going to be going into into a facility, into the hospital system, and if that's what you're choosing, that's great. But realize that most people there are just they show up and they don't say anything, and treatment happens to them.
Becomes passive.
Yes.
Yep.
And like you're subservient.
Mm-hmm.
What needs to happen is if you're showing up there willingly or in labor, you're also making that investment to be there. So the things that you want in your room, the people that you want in your room, the things that you do or you don't want, you have a say in those things. And this is that stop point of, okay, if you feel like you're ready, like on the hot seat, just even thinking about that, that's where that doula will come in to be able to abide by your wishes and help you to speak up or be the voice of reason, the thing that needs to be heard. Because just because you're on somebody else's turf, maybe if you're not at home, that doesn't mean that you willingly need to give up your power. That you can still have a very empowering birth within a hospital system, within a hospital, but you need to be able to voice those things that you want. And unless you've done the research, you don't know what you can say and do.
Well, yes, and depending on what groups you're in, online, chat rooms, things like this, they can make it seem like you're going into a hospital birth in a very combative situation where you're going in, you're going to have a birth, everyone's maybe going to be against you or make you feel like you don't have decisions, but you do. And if you just have things wrote out and have really good communication with your provider, OB, midwife, both of them, that way they know what you want. They can work within your wishes. But then if there has to be some form of medical intervention, they can understand too, like what you want done and what you don't want done. Do you want to be offered analgesics, anti-pain medication when you're in pain? Because when you're in pain and somebody gives you a solution to get out of pain, you will take it. But when you're of the right mind, you may not want that option. And that's really hard from your provider and your partner standpoint as well. If I'm in the room, I remember with you, first birth with Peyton, and you were in a tremendous amount of pain. And it was our first birth. We were rushed into our birth story. We can talk about it at some point if you want, or not. That's fine, or not. But I wanted to keep you comfortable. That was my biggest concern. You of right mind before you were in active labor and in your state of laboring, which is a state of actual trance, I would say, like moms go to a different place. Your thinking is different than when you're not in labor. And I had to keep that in mind because I was like, let's get the pain meds rolling. And you're like, absolutely not. I'm not having an epidural. I'm not doing this. We did use an analgesic for a little while that was non-narcotic to help you get over the hump, but that was because you were induced. Like there was a lot going into this. But that being said, had I not had things wrote out for me, or you sat down with me, or the providers know, it's very easy to slip into that I want to just help my wife mode immediately and get her out of the pain versus support her through it, and do the wishes that she wished that she had done. And that's a big thing. It's really big. So we get these things wrote down. Now, make sure that when you have a copy of this, you want multiples. So you want one for you, one for your provider, one for the nurses, one for the nursing station, like the doctor, the OB that could be attending.
Right. And let's be honest, like you're going to give it, if it's read, I don't know if they read it.
I really don't know if it's read
either. To have it accessible, at least in the room, so then when it's that time. But I mean, with this, you're not waiting until typically your third trimester to find that OB. Typically, like when you're finding out you're pregnant, I would say maybe 50%, are going through and doing those regular checkups. You can't go in thinking like if you're asking the questions and you're already like, well, the doctor said this and that they'll maybe let me do some things. If there's already those red flags, just because that person is a great person does not mean that you need to stay with that person.
Yep.
So it is okay to hire and fire as many OBs or doulas or midwives until you find the right fit. And I think that's what some people don't realize. It's that, well, this is the person that I've always seen. Well, that's great. Maybe they're a great person, but who are you maybe not like that you haven't met yet that might be even better for this next birth story for you?
Yes. And sometimes it is not your gynecologist. Like that, let's just be real honest with that. Like most of the time it's not your gyno. Like your gynecologist knows all about your situation in birth canal and cervix and all sorts of stuff. But when it comes to being your birth provider, it can be somebody totally different. And you're not going to, if they're a professional, they should not get offended by that. If you choose to find a different birth provider during your birth versus having your physicals done, things like that. Now, let's talk babies out of the birth canal. And now baby's born and we're in the outside world. So let's talk about some other choices here in writing the birth plan as far as what do you want to do for baby from this point forward? Because remember, as soon as that cord is cut, that baby is now under the care of the pediatrician, not under the care of the gynecologist or the birth provider that helped get the baby out if you birth in a hospital.
The midwife, the OB, that is mom. Pediatrician is baby. So there's always that quickness to cut the cord because let's just face it, you're in a hospital, wherever you're delivering, that is the difference of if something were to go wrong of who's paying for malpractice. So that's why there's always the quick reasoning to want to literally cut the cord.
Cut the cord.
But that cord, that discussion needs to be had because the amount of vital
blood, stem cells,
all the everything, the energy that is in that cord is vital for that baby. So it's really important to keep that connection to allow everything, the pulsing to stop. And like there's no need to cut that so quickly.
There is actually zero medical evidence that talks about the importance of cutting the cord as fast as possible. None. There is a lot of evidence that shows the importance of delayed cord clamping and why it's important to allow that cord to stop pulsing and baby get all of the blood that's been in the cord or that your body mama wants to get to that baby before we actually cut the cord.
There's so many like it's just like the survival, all of that stuff is in that cord. And again, like that's one of those questions to ask early on of like, well, when do you typically cut the cord? How is that done? And like, well, it's immediate. Like you need to do the understanding of this is not okay, I'm going to cut it right away or I'm going to delay. You need to understand, okay, why are you choosing to delay? And that's what then starts to empower you to be able to take that stance. Again, if you have that doula there or your partner, they'll be able to help. But it's also part of like, ladies, you are growing this baby. You weren't given a manual. Your body can do it. You just now need to give the energy and to be able to speak up for the things that your body needs to be able to give to that baby.
Yep. And it starts with delayed cord clamping. So look into delayed cord clamping and really do your research on it. We highly, highly recommend it. That it does help baby. It does get the last bit of nutrition to baby. Next thought is skin on skin. Do you want baby immediately to breast? Some of it happens where they will cut the cord and take baby over to the incubator and the table right away, versus can they take the vitals of the baby while they're laying on you? A lot of times during birth, when baby may have changes in respiration, changes in heartbeat, changes in their actual overall rigor, which is all judged by their APGAR score, they can take all of those measurements in the first 1 and 5 minutes of that baby's life while baby is skin on skin with you. Why skin on skin contact is so important for baby is the regulation of their heart rate and respirations, because they tie them back to you.
I'm just like, you just went through, that baby just went through like the adventure of a lifetime. Nothing is ever going to be like that
the adventure river
ever again for them.
Yep.
And to think that their body isn't stressed, like they are right, like it was dark and it was dark and it was warm and cozy,
and they could hear your heartbeat,
and then they came out and it's flipping cold and bright and people and just like the energy, right? You can feel the energy. So that skin on skin is just like, that's very calming. So just to know that, okay, I'm still in a safe place, but the regulation, all the other health related, important things that happen with that skin on skin is really vital.
One of the big questions we get, and we're not going to talk about the name, but actually putting things on kids' eyes after they're born. And is it an actual necessity or not? Now, I want you to keep in mind, Dr. Julie and I are not trained medical providers. We are chiropractic doctors, and we work in the birth world.
Correct. But we're also people, and you're also people. So you need to realize that if people don't start to ask questions, things just become routine. And just because it's routine for everybody else doesn't mean that it needs to be routine for you. So you again need to understand what that is for. And I think if you would understand what it's for, you would feel like you would feel disgusted that your provider that you've maybe now grown a relationship with for 9, 10, maybe you've known them for a very long time, would assume that
if you want medication put in your children's eyes, and they only do it because of sexually transmitted diseases.
That's what I'm saying. Like they would assume that, you were promiscuous then during your pregnancy and that you would need to have this. And I guess just that assumption to me of like, if you've had that relationship with a provider and they just assume as much, like, man, that just, it's really disheartening, I think, of how that happens when people don't question or ask.
I would say that knowing you for the years I've known you, and OBs that have taken care of you, and gynecologists, like, it is an insult when you've had one sexual partner your entire life and you're not promiscuous and you don't have sexually transmitted diseases. Like, there are things that I understand the importance of them if you do have those issues.
Absolutely.
But if you don't, there's really no medical necessity for them. And those are the questions you need to ask is, are there just routinely things done? And then the last thing I want moms to really concentrate on and think about is, how do they want the baby taken out of the room or not? This is another part of your birth plan that is commonly missed, is can you have baby in room with you 24 hours?
Baby in room, yeah.
Baby in room.
That baby does not leave without somebody else
going with it.
Immediately next to that baby. Everything can be done in that same room with you. And again, if nothing else, to have in the back of your mind that things become routine. So even though if you've written up this birth plan of the things that you do or you don't want to have happen now that baby is here, people, again, nurses, the doctors, the pediatricians, because many people don't ask these questions, it's routine that things happen. And then you later find out about them in the birth records once you ask for them. So again, you can't assume anything in life, but especially within whatever system that you're at, of that baby just does not leave your presence.
And it's super important to do that. That's your child. It is now your baby. You are 100% responsible for it. So you take the bull by the horns and you be responsible and make sure that baby is brought into life exactly how you and your spouse partner want it. Correct? Do you have anything else you want to add in today, Dr. Julie?
Well, I would say because we started with the birth plan, if you're kind of like, I don't even know where to start, just message, comment below. Please reach out, social media, give us a call. We have a phenomenal birth plan that I would be happy to share with you. But I just need some information from you to be able to send it out. So get in contact with us, primefamilycenters.com. You can find us on all of social media. Just give us a tag and we would be happy to share that birth plan with you.
And one last thing, we are trying to increase our subscribers to over 1,000 subscribers this year. If you have subscribed to this podcast, type in below subscribed. If you shared it, type in below shared. And you will get entered in a drawing that we will have at the end of the month for a very, very nice gift just for you being so wonderful and sharing and subscribing to what we have to offer here at the Prime Podcast. Now, everybody, go out there, get it done. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.